Hello, everyone. Welcome to Christopher's Entertainment Blog. I'm your host, Chris, and welcome to my Batman vs. Superman Dawn of Justice spoilers review. Wow, this movie, guys, boy, it is quite diversive too. There's a lot of diversity already through the critics' reviews, through the user reviews, the public that are seeing this film. It's mind-boggling. That there's a lot of people on one side that don't like the film at all. There's other people on the other side that love the film. So much like Man of Steel, which I loved Man of Steel personally, I thought it was fantastic. Going into this film, I have been looking forward to a Batman versus Superman movie for like 20 years or something. Um, and then I've been waiting the 3 years since they announced this. It's been a exciting road, to say the least. To just the waiting for this film to come out has been insane. Um, and there's been a lot of hype and a lot of buzz around this film. So I know there's probably a lot of people that had certain expectations where it didn't meet, and it just fell on just fell flat for a lot of people. So, but overall, for me personally, I'm going to say that the good outweighed the bad, and there's definitely bad in this movie. Unfortunately, there is definitely bad. The first thing that I really loved in this film was the fights. The fight scenes, all the fight scenes, I thought were fantastic. Amazing fight scenes between with Batman fighting thugs, Batman and Superman fighting eventually. Then you have Wonder Woman in there fighting. You have the Doomsday creature comes in, and then that's insane. That whole scene at the beginning where Bruce Wayne is at Metropolis and his point of view is what was happening during Man of Steel. I thought was great. That whole piece together scene with him, saving people, going into the danger zone and everything, that was great. I really enjoyed that stuff. The second thing that I really enjoyed, Jeremy Irons as Alfred, I thought was fantastic. I love that he was this, instead of just being the butler Alfred or the father figure Alfred, he was the father figure, but he was hands on, like soldier Alfred, which I really like. I really like that type of Alfred. And I think Jeremy Irons played that character to a T perfectly, and I really, really loved him as Alfred. Um, Henry Cavill as Superman again is my favorite Superman of all time, and I love the Christopher Reeve uh, Superman. I grew up with those, but right now Henry Cavill is Superman, and he is fantastic again in this film. I know a lot of people maybe felt that he had some dialogue that wasn't as great. He was a little bland at times. I can certainly see that, but I still think that that wasn't his fault. That was probably the writing, more than likely. But I really think that the look and the feel of Henry Cavill is Superman, and I think he is fantastic. And I enjoyed every scene that he had on screen, except for the few that were with Lois that were a little bit odd. That like out on the balcony or whatever, I thought was a little suspect dialogue. But other than that, I mean, it didn't bother me. It didn't take me out of it. Um, Affleck, Ben Affleck. I have been on board with the Ben Affleck Batman since the very beginning where they cast him. I said, "Oh wow, this might be pretty good," because Ben Affleck is a big dude. He's like 6'4" or something. They showed that in the film with him training and exercising out and lifting the weights and everything. He looked, man, I was like, wow, to me right now, Ben Affleck is the best Batman we've ever had, bar none. I can't wait for the solo The Batman movie. That's going to be insane because the fight scenes that Batman had in this film were crazy. I love this Arkham Asylum, Arkham City video game Batman. This Batman that is busting and cracking heads. He's branding people. He don't care what he does. This is a Batman that's basically in the latter days of his crime fighting career. He's an older Batman. He's been fighting crime for 20 years or something. So he's tired of just letting these criminals go, and then they come back, because he even says, I mean, how many people that did we know in the 20 years of doing this, were they good people? We thought they were good, but then they ended up turning bad, or being bad. So he's seen a lot in his day. This is why he don't trust Superman at all. He thinks that he's a fraud, that he's going to turn on us. He's got all this power. Certainly understandable. And I think this was more of a Batman movie than it was a Superman movie in a lot of cases. So Ben Affleck, wonderful Batman. That Batcave and the Batmobile was amazing. Going down into the water, that Batcave entrance was insane. Absolutely the best Batcave too that I've ever seen on screen as well. Just awesome. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, I thought she looked perfect as Wonder Woman. The entrance of her as in the outfit of Wonder Woman, the special her theme music was great. I like how all the characters had their certain um, music, their certain soundtrack. They all had a different flavor of music, which I loved. That was great. And the Gal Gadot Wonder Woman soundtrack or music theme was awesome. I really enjoyed that. I wish she would have had a little more lines in the movie. She only had just a few, and then most of the time she was just looking or running away or getting on a plane or not much there. But I think the lines that she did deliver were very good. They certainly weren't the greatest, but her dialogue wasn't very much, and I think the ones she did were fine. I didn't mind them at all. And there was one scene at the end when they're fighting the Doomsday, and she gets floored, and then she's got that smile on her face, like she's having fun fighting Doomsday, and then she ends up cutting Doomsday's arm and everything. She's badass. So I can't wait for the Wonder Woman solo film. But she didn't have that many lines, so it's still suspect a little bit if she's going to be able to carry an entire film. So, but what I've seen here, it seems like she was okay. So, Doomsday at the end, well, I know that they made a mistake putting in the Doomsday creature in that one trailer. They showed Doomsday, they showed the Trinity at the end. That was a mistake. They should have never did that. That was such terrible, a put together trailer that they showed them in that. And we already knew that was going to happen since we seen the trailer. We knew that was going to happen in this film. I was just waiting for that to build up to that. So I would have much rather had it to where they never showed that in the trailer and that we found out that out in the movie. It would have been, I think, a lot better. Um, but Doomsday, I was expecting Doomsday to be kind of bad, and he turned out actually pretty good. I actually really liked Doomsday in this. I was really hoping he would get more of those the bones or whatever sticking out of his face. He was actually going into that form, but they found out that if they keep giving him energy, he would keep absorbing it or whatever. So they stopped it. But I was like, oh well, at least they kind of touched on that a little bit, that's what he was going to evolve every time. So that was kind of cool. And he was badass, man. He was like unstoppable, and it took the death of Superman to actually stop him, which is insane. Um, but Doomsday, I think, was fantastic. I really do. And some of them, just the overall fight scene with Doomsday was just insane. With Wonder Woman and then Batman mixing it up in there with what he could do. He's watching these two god superhuman people, Wonder Woman and Superman, fight Doomsday, which is like indestructible. So it's just like what could he do is just like sit back and watch. I thought that was kind of funny. But he did mix it up in there where he was throwing, those kryptonite bombs at him, which was awesome. So that was cool. Even though this movie was a little bit stuffed with, they really tried to cram as much stuff they could in this. Unfortunately, even though it was a little crammed, setting up the DC cinematic universe, I was still excited to see the Flash and Wonder Woman, Cyborg, Aquaman, all these characters in this. I mean, they showed those little videos or whatever, like the Flash, which I think was awesome, trying to get you hyped for that, which looked great. I was like, wow, Ezra Miller looks great as the Flash. I was like, okay, this is cool. Aquaman, I wish we would have seen a little more of Aquaman. That would have been awesome if we had a scene of him coming out of the ocean or doing something spectacular. But what they showed was a little bit. There wasn't much there, but it's still. I can't wait. I think Momoa looks fantastic though as Aquaman. I think he looks great. The Cyborg one, I mean, the Cyborg one I thought was interesting. I didn't mind it, and I know that a lot of people were maybe didn't know what was going on. Were like, "What the hell? Who are these people? Like, what? Well, what is that? What is that creature?" It's like, what is happening? So I understood what was going on, and the whole cyborg thing is a little suspect. I think they could have did a little better thing with cyborg, but yeah, I really enjoyed all those little clips and everything, and then the Wonder Woman photo with Chris Pine in it from the Wonder Woman solo movie that they're making. So I really liked how they put that in there as well. So some of the negatives that I had, unfortunately, there were a few. Though there was quite a few, but I think there was more good than the bad. But the one negative that I had was Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor. I wanted to like him, and I was just like, he's a little bit too wacky. He's a little bit too wacky, a little bit too deranged, and it seemed like he was really pushing himself to be wacky or crazy or I don't know. I just didn't really buy into that whole thing that he was this wacky, crazy, insane dude. I mean, I don't know. I just didn't buy into that, and it was a little bit too much of a clown act at times. Not all the times. There were a few times where he was kind of serious, and I was like, oh well, he's like really deranged and demented. But then there was other times where he was just like wacky, and it was just weird. Um, I would have much rather had him be more serious a lot more of the time than being the wacky character. I was really hoping he was going to be like a wacky, crazy dude in the public, but then be real serious and everything behind the scenes. He was like that a little bit at times, but I think it could have been a little bit more serious, more than what they did. But overall, I still thought that he was an interesting character. It just was a negative for me, and I just would have rather had a different type of Lex Luthor. Zack Snyder, the director, shot this film. I think he shoots visually stunning uh, scenes. It's insane. Through Man of Steel, through The Watchmen, and even with Sucker Punch and 300, some visually stunning scenes. Even though Sucker Punch wasn't the greatest film, but it had some visually stunning scenes in there, action. And 300 had those great action scenes. I Am Sparta, and then the kick, and just some amazing visually just absolutely crazy scenes. Um, so he definitely knows how to do that. But the problem that he had with this particular movie was the actual direction or the way he told the story wasn't exactly coherent at times. It wasn't it wasn't the storytelling just wasn't it where it should be. It was just all over the place at times, and it jumped around. The editing was very bad at times. Certain times it was okay. Other times it was just bad, where they have a scene and then they would cut to another scene that was way out of context of what was happening with the previous scene, and then they would do that scene and then jump back to the other scene and then jump to another scene. It was just like, whoa. I mean, what is happening with the editing? And then later on in the film they would jump back to another scene that happened in the movie already. It was weird. It was really bad, and it was kind of jarring at times. And I can see where a lot of people probably couldn't keep up with that type of pacing and the way he had it, the way he edited it. The pacing and the actual editing was just all over the place. Horrible, horrible at times. It was just really bad. A lot of kids and a lot of other people that were there just with other family that wanted to see it, they probably didn't even know what the heck was going on. Who are these people? Who are these other power people? I mean, they probably didn't know what was going on, and what's happening with Batman in the Batcave. What is that weird futuristic Batman? It looks like Mad Max, and what is happening, and then the Flash shows up, and probably people didn't even know that was the Flash. They're like, who the heck is this guy? But I knew it was the Flash when I seen it. But even though I knew it was the Flash, at first I was like, whoa, what's happening? This is craziness. I mean, what is this? It was so jarring, when the Flash showed up. I didn't know what was happening, and then it dawned on me, oh, that's the Flash. He's going back in time, or he's on the cosmic treadmill, or something to convey a message to Bruce Wayne. So I mean, yeah, I mean, it was confusing at times. So that's a negative, that where the story just wasn't very coherent at times, and it just wasn't very straightforward and very easy to follow either. So, um, Another negative was the actual fight between Batman and Superman. I really wanted them to fight more. They only fought for like what, 8 to 10 minutes, and I was like, that's it. The movie is Batman versus Superman. I really wish they would have fought like 2 or 3 times. Like have one fight with Superman that wins, and then maybe Batman creates the armor and then he wins. Then Batman wins. I mean, that would have made a little bit more sense. But there was a lot of setup, and then there was a short fight, and then there was the final act was setting up the Justice League. So yeah, I mean, that was a little bit of a disappointment. I wish there would have been a little more fighting between Batman and Superman, but I do think it was really ballsy of them to actually have a clear-cut winner. I thought they would have had like a draw or something, or somebody would have stepped in like Wonder Woman and separated them. There was a winner, and it was Batman. Batman beat Superman in this, kind of like the Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. Instead of having the hand at the throat of Superman. He was actually stepping on the throat of Superman, and he had that spear. He was ready to kill Superman. That was insane. So yeah, I was surprised at that. That was kind of cool too. But I wish the fight would have been a little longer because the fight that they did I thought was great. I just wish it was a little longer. I didn't care much for the whole death of Superman. I mean, it's a device to get Superman out of the way. I get that, but I mean, they're going to have to bring him back anyway because at the end they tease the dirt rising off the coffin. I think you can hear like a heartbeat, like slowly. I mean, and then the dirt rising. So he's not dead. So why even show him dying in the first place? That makes no sense. Um, like I said, it's a device to get him out of the way so Batman can form the Justice League, and then they'll bring in Superman again. But I mean, why not just have him there? I mean, they're going to bring him back anyway. So I mean, that was a negative, and I hate seeing the death of Superman. I mean, I like to look at Superman as indestructible. I mean, the only thing that can really keep him down is the kryptonite, which is fine. But I mean, they even showed him getting nuked when he was carrying Doomsday out into space, and then they nuked them, and then they showed Superman like he was dead there, and I was like, what is this? That was so odd to me, and I didn't really care much for that. But then he like got his health back or whatever and came back to life. So um, I just didn't care much for the whole death. And then Doomsday killed him with that bone spike that he had, and it was just like, you can't kill Superman, come on. But I know they're trying to do with the comics, with the death of Superman and all that, which I get it, but I just would have rather had them just keep Superman there. Maybe, show him dying, but then have him come back or something. Now we're going to go into another movie and they're just going to bring him back. So I don't know. It was just, yeah, I just didn't really care much for that. I was really surprised by the Scoot McNairy character. His name was Wallace Keefe in the movie. He's the guy that had no legs. I was really surprised by that character because for months, maybe years, I've been wondering who that character is. I think at one point they thought he was the Flash or something, but it turns out he was like this guy that was crippled during the actual uh, Man of Steel invasion where the buildings came down and he ended up losing his leg at the beginning. So that I was surprised by that, and then he turned into like a suicide bomber in the end, which was insane. So a lot of that stuff was surprising to me. And then when they blew up the whole Capitol, I was not expecting that whole Capitol to get blowed up like that at all. I mean, it surprised me. It actually shocked me. I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting that at all. Overall, guys, I really enjoyed this movie. I think it could have been a little better. The editing, I think, is probably what set people off a little bit and put a lot of negativity in there. The editing was the pacing, the editing wasn't that great, but I really enjoyed Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman in the movie. I thought all the other characters were great. I thought all the characters were great. I thought Amy Adams as Lois Lane was great. I thought Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White was a great character. Diane Lane again as Martha Kent was great. They even had Kevin Costner back in this. I was not expecting him to come back. I didn't even know they did anything with him. Him coming back as Pa Kent as like a ghost. That was a great scene. Jeremy Irons is fantastic as Alfred, and all the other characters were fantastic. The only one that was a negative for me was Jesse Eisenberg's Lex, was a little too wacky. I think it would have been better if he would have played it more serious at times. But overall, guys, I really enjoyed the film. I want to see it a few more times to really absorb all the stuff that happened in this film. There's just so much stuff, so many Easter eggs that a lot of people probably wouldn't catch. The whole, Mad Max type futuristic Batman and that whole Omega symbol, the dark side stuff, and the parademons coming in. So that's like a futuristic. They're calling for what's going to happen in the Justice League. I presume that's going to be Dark Side, and he's seeing the future, and then the Flash popping in there and telling Bruce Wayne that Lois Lane is the key and not to trust him. You were right about him, whoever him is. I mean, I don't know him, who that is, but so much insane stuff. And then they're setting up Flash and Wonder Woman and Cyborg and Aquaman all in this movie. And then they had that little scuffle with Batman and Superman. I mean, even Lex Luthor, even set up Lex Luthor. He's bald now, so he'll probably come back. I mean, he's not out of the picture entirely. So, just so much insane stuff in this. I can't wait to see the rated R cut to see what they add and what they, who's in that. Or maybe it'll actually be edited a little better in the rated R version. So, I can't wait for that. So, after this huge film with so much stuff packed in there, so much awesome stuff, and just so much stuff to absorb, I can certainly understand why a lot of the fans like it and some don't, and the critics are being harsh as they are, certainly because of that editing. I certainly understand that. Um, but I have to say that I still think this is a movie that everyone should see and figure for themselves if they like it or not. And I still think Man of Steel is a better film, and still think it was a little easier to follow as well, and the editing was a lot better. But I would probably give this film a solid 3.5 out of 5, or a 7.5 out of 10. I'd probably give Man of Steel like a 4 out of 5, like an 8 or something out of 10. So, yeah, I still enjoyed it. I still think it's a really good film. And just shy of being great if the editing was a little bit better, a little bit better pacing, and some of that story was a little bit sharper. But overall, guys, I did enjoy it, and I really wish people would go out and see it and think for themselves what if they like it or not. Please let me know if there's anything that I missed that you guys want to talk about, because there is so much stuff packed into this movie that I didn't mention. But please, anything that you liked about the movie or anything you didn't like about the movie, please write in the comments below. But that will do it for me for this review video for Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. Until next time, guys, take it easy.